About 4 years ago, my parents went through a divorce. The reason behind it was that my mom had been unfaithful to my dad. But it wasn't just with some stranger or someone he didn't know. She ended up having an affair with my dad's younger brother, who had also just gotten divorced around that time. Yeah, I know, it's hard to believe that she started a relationship with her own brother-in-law, someone who was part of the family. When my dad found out about it, he was completely devastated and beyond angry. He and his brother got into a huge, ugly fight, both physically and emotionally. It wasn't just a small argument, it caused a serious rift in the family. The rest of our relatives were just as shocked and upset. They all took my dad's side, seeing him as the one who was betrayed, and they pretty much cut off contact with both my mom and my uncle. From that point on, my mom and my dad's brother were basically pushed out of the family circle. Nobody wanted to talk to them or be around them anymore. The whole situation tore the family apart in many ways, and things have never really been the same since. When everything happened, I was filled with so much anger towards my mom for tearing our family apart. I didn't even want to look at her. I couldn't stand the sight of her. She cried a lot and begged for another chance, trying to get my dad to forgive her, but he wasn't having it. He handed her the divorce papers right to her face and made it clear that things were over between them. During the divorce process, my mom tried hard to get as much as she could from my dad, whether it was money, property, or anything else she could fight for. It felt like she was being selfish and only thinking about herself. Even after everything she had done, once the divorce was finalized, my mom started dating again. And not just one or two people, she's been with a lot of different men since then. Watching that happen made things even harder for me to process. I've been going to therapy, and I can honestly say I'm not as full of rage as I used to be. I've worked through some of the emotions and I'm able to talk about it more calmly now. But even though I'm not as angry, I still feel a deep sense of resentment towards her for breaking up our family. About 2 years ago, my dad was offered a huge job opportunity overseas. And when I say huge, I mean it was the kind of job that could completely change his life. The salary was incredible and it came with all sorts of benefits. It was the kind of chance that doesn't come around often. My dad and I had a serious talk about it. At first, he was thinking about turning it down because he didn't want to leave me behind. I could tell he was really torn. He wanted to be there for me, but this job clearly meant a lot to him. I didn't want to be the reason he gave up such a big opportunity. Deep down, I knew how much this meant to him, and I didn't want to hold him back. At the same time, I wasn't ready to move abroad. I didn't want to leave behind everything I knew, my friends, my school, my routines, my extended family. The idea of starting over in a whole new country just didn't sit right with me. So eventually my mom and dad worked something out. Even though they were divorced, they agreed on a plan that made sense for everyone. I would stay and live with my mom, and my dad would send her child support to help cover the costs of raising me. On top of that, he also set up a weekly allowance for me, so I'd have money for my personal needs, things like school supplies, clothes, going out with friends, and other stuff like that. It wasn't the perfect situation, but it was a compromise that let my dad chase his dream and allowed me to stay in the life I was used to. Living with my mom these past 2 years hasn't been easy. She's nothing like my dad, and the difference between them is really hard to ignore. My dad was always responsible, clean, and put together. My mom, on the other hand, is the opposite. She's messy, disorganized, rarely ever cleans up after herself. The house is usually a mess, and she doesn't seem to care much about keeping things in order. She only works part-time, at a local diner. So she has a lot of free time, but she doesn't really use it in a healthy way. Most days, she just sits around drinking. And when she drinks too much, which happens a lot, she can get mean and bitter. She'll start yelling or complaining, and she always finds a way to blame my dad for how her life turned out. She says he ruined everything for her when he left her, even though she was the one who cheated. I've learned not to argue with her because it doesn't lead anywhere. She never listens. And I don't have the energy to go back and forth with someone who's not even sober half the time. So now, I mostly just keep to myself. I stay quiet, ignore her when she starts ranting, and try to focus on my own life as best as I can. About 6 months ago, my mom started seeing a new guy. At first, I didn't think much of it. Honestly, I didn't even bother to learn his name because I assumed it was just another one of her short-term flings. She's had so many relationships over the years that I didn't expect this one to be any different. It just didn't seem serious. But then, out of nowhere, this month they announced that they had gotten married. In Las Vegas, of all places. When I asked her about it, she said it was a spontaneous last-minute decision. Knowing her, I wouldn't be surprised if alcohol played a part in it. It just felt like one of those reckless choices she tends to make without thinking things through. Since the wedding, her new husband has moved in with us. Now he's living here full-time, sharing the same space I've always known as home. It's been a weird adjustment, especially since I barely even knew the guy before he suddenly became my stepdad. I honestly don't like my mom's new husband very much. From the beginning, he's found one reason or another to make things difficult for me. It's like he's always trying to stir something up or assert control where he shouldn't. One of the things that really bothered me early on was how he wanted me to start calling him Daddy. That made me extremely uncomfortable. It felt wrong, like he was trying to replace my real dad, who's still very much a part of my life. I eventually told my dad about it, and he wasn't happy. He immediately stepped in and had a serious conversation with my mom. He told her in no uncertain terms that her husband needed to back off. My dad made it clear that he is my father, period, and that her husband is just a stepfather, nothing more. That wasn't the only issue. My stepdad has also been really nosy and controlling when it comes to money. He keeps bringing up the weekly allowance my dad sends me and acts like it's some huge problem. He said it was ridiculous that I was getting money directly from my dad and even tried to pressure me into handing it over to him and my mom so they could keep it safe for me. Obviously, I didn't go along with that. Once again, I had to get my dad involved. He stepped in and set firm boundaries, warning him to stay out of anything that has to do with my allowance. After that, my stepdad backed off, for now at least. But I still don't trust him, and I always feel like I have to stay on guard around him. Recently, one of my close friends invited me to her concert. I was really excited about it, and I had already told my mom ahead of time. She had agreed and said it was fine for me to go. Everything seemed set. But on the day of the concert, just as I was getting ready to leave and meet up with my friends, my stepfather suddenly stopped me. Out of nowhere, he told me I wasn't going anywhere until I did the dishes and the laundry. He actually referred to it as his house and said I had responsibilities to take care of before going out. I was shocked, completely caught off guard. First of all, I reminded him that this house isn't even his, it's my mom's house. And she got it in the divorce settlement from my dad. So if anything, it's not his to make demands in. Second, we have a set schedule in the house. Everyone has assigned days for chores like dishes and laundry. And that day wasn't mine. It wasn't my turn, and he knew that. So I told him straight up, if he wanted the dishes or laundry done, he could do it himself. I wasn't going to miss my friend's concert just because he suddenly felt like bossing me around. He started yelling at me, accusing me of being rude and disrespectful. His tone was harsh, like he thought he had some kind of authority over me just because he lives in the house now. Then he went as far as to threaten that he wouldn't let me leave the house at all if I didn't do what he said. At that point, I'd had enough. I rolled my eyes and told him flat out that he's not my father, and he never will be. I also made it very clear that if I told my dad about how he was treating me, he'd be facing some serious consequences. My dad doesn't take that kind of behavior lightly, especially when it comes to how I'm being treated. My stepfather was clearly furious. His face turned red. He looked like he was about to explode. But I didn't give him the satisfaction of reacting. I just ignored his shouting, walked past him, and left the house. I wasn't going to let him ruin my night or control me like that. Ever since that night, my stepfather has been worse than ever. It's like he's been going out of his way to make things more difficult for me. I try to ignore him as much as I can, but that doesn't stop him. Even when I stay quiet and keep to myself, he'll get up in my face, yelling and arguing like he's trying to provoke a reaction out of me. It's exhausting and honestly feels like he's trying to pick fights on purpose. A week ago, things got even more frustrating. My mom and I were talking about my upcoming 16th birthday, something I've actually been looking forward to. My dad told me that I could celebrate it however I wanted. He wants it to be special for me and made it clear that I should get to choose how I spend it. But during the conversation, my mom started pushing her own agenda. She kept trying to convince me to have a small celebration with just her and my stepdad. She went on and on about how he's family now and how I need to start accepting that. I stayed calm at first, but I could feel my patience slipping away. I finally put my foot down and told her clearly that I wasn't going to do that. I don't want to spend my 16th birthday with someone who makes me feel miserable in my own home. My stepdad has done nothing but bring stress and tension into my life. And I know he would find some way to ruin what's supposed to be a happy day for me. I want a birthday that actually feels like a celebration, not one spent trying to survive his bad attitude. It's my birthday. I should get to choose who I spend it with. And I refuse to include someone who's only brought negativity into my life. Then I went upstairs to my room trying to cool off and put the whole thing behind me. But not long after, I started hearing voices, my mom and stepdad talking downstairs. At first, I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but the tone of their voices caught my attention. Something in me told me to listen. So I quietly peeked my head out of the room to hear more clearly. That's when I overheard my stepdad going on a rant about me. He was angry, really angry, and said something that hit me like a punch to the chest. He said he wished my mom had never had a child. He called me unruly and selfish just because I didn't want to celebrate my birthday with him. All because I set a boundary and didn't want him involved in something that was important to me. But what hurt even more was what my mom said in response. Instead of defending me or calming him down, she actually agreed with him. She said I was just as stubborn as my father, like it was some kind of insult. And then she said something I'll probably never forget, that they just needed to adjust to living with me for 2 more years until I turned 18 and left their house. Hearing that made my heart sink. It felt like I wasn't even her child in that moment, just a problem they had to tolerate until I was old enough to leave. My mom then continued to say that if it weren't for the huge child support money my dad sends, she never would have agreed to let me stay with her after he moved abroad. My stepfather casually agreed with her like it was just a fact of life, and added that at least I was useful to them in some way. He said they needed the next paycheck from my dad so they could buy new furniture for the house. My whole body felt cold, like the floor had dropped out from under me. 1,000 thoughts started racing through my mind all at once. Anger, confusion, sadness, betrayal. I didn't know whether to scream, cry, or just run. All this time I thought maybe even if things were rough, my mom still cared about me as her daughter. But in that moment, it felt like I was nothing more than a monthly payment to her. Just a source of income, not her child. Not someone she loved. The truth is, deep down, I think I always kind of knew. I've known for a while that my mom doesn't use all of the child support money on me. Maybe half of it goes towards things I actually need, like food, clothes, school stuff, but the rest? It's pretty obvious. She uses it for herself. Every month, like clockwork, the day my dad sends over the payment, she treats herself. Full body massages, mani-pedis, hair appointments, you name it. I've seen it happen so many times that I just got used to it. I never really said anything because I didn't want to stir up drama. I figured if I had what I needed, then whatever she did with the rest was her business. I let it slide. But hearing her say it out loud, hearing her admit that she only let me live with her because of the money, hit different. It wasn't just about the spending anymore. It wasn't just about the little luxuries she gave herself. It was about the intention behind it. It made everything feel hollow, like I wasn't staying here because she loved me or wanted me around, but because I came with a paycheck attached. That kind of realization hits hard. It makes you question everything, your place in the house, the way she treats you, even your own worth. I just stood there, completely still, listening in disbelief as my mom kept talking. She said her life would be so much better and easier without me, like I was some heavy burden she had to carry, like I was the thing holding her back from being happy. And then my stepfather, without missing a beat, agreed with her. He called me a nuisance, loudly. Hearing all of that has broken something in me. I keep asking myself over and over, am I really so meaningless to her? Did I ever actually matter? Or am I only worth the money she gets every month from my dad? So I'm here today on Reddit to ask if I truly deserve my mother talking about me this way. Is this normal for a parent to speak this way about their child? Update 1. Hi everyone, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who took the time to read my post, reach out, and offer support. I also wanted to answer a few questions that came up in the comments and messages. 1. Do I still talk to my dad? Yes, absolutely. My dad and I are very close. We talk regularly. Video calls, texts, and phone calls. He checks in on me a lot, and I know he'd fly back in a second if I needed him. He offered to take me with him when he got the job abroad, but I made the decision to stay behind because I didn't want to leave my friends and extended family. I still think I made the right call at the time, but now I'm not so sure. 2, can I move in with my dad now? This is something I've been seriously thinking about since what happened. I haven't told him yet about the conversation I overheard, but I plan to. I know once he hears it, he's going to be furious, and honestly, I think he'll want me to move in with him. The only catch is it would mean starting over in a different country, which is scary. But at this point, it's something I'm strongly considering. Why did I choose to stay with my mom originally? At the time, I didn't really understand how toxic things could get. I had hope that things would improve with her, and I didn't want to leave behind everything I knew, school, friends, family. My dad even hesitated to take the job at first because of me, but I encouraged him to go. I really believed my mom would be able to handle things. I didn't know what I was walking into. Update 2. I decided to talk to my dad and confess everything I had heard Mom and Stepdad talking about. As soon as I heard his voice, all the emotions I had been holding in just poured out. I broke down completely, and through tears, I told him everything. How I overheard my mom and stepdad talking about me like I was nothing more than a burden. How they said life would be easier without me. How they only kept me around for the child support money. I couldn't even get the words out all at once because I was crying so hard. I told him how deeply it hurt to hear my own mother talk about me like I was some unwanted presence in her life, like I was just this inconvenient thing she had to adjust to for a couple more years. It made me feel small, like I didn't matter, not as a daughter, not even as a person. I felt completely dehumanized, like I wasn't even seen as her child anymore, just a monthly check with a name. Dad was furious when he heard everything. His first reaction was to want to call my mom right away and confront her and my stepdad. He wanted to stand up for me and make sure they understood how wrong they were. But I stopped him. I told him that confronting them probably wouldn't help. In fact, I was worried it might make things worse for me and for the relationship I still have with my mom. Sometimes when people are stubborn or don't want to change, trying to force the issue can just lead to more anger and resentment. I didn't want to stir up more conflict or make my home life even more unbearable. So instead, my dad and I sat down and talked about what we could do to make things better for me. We both agreed that I needed a safer, more supportive place to live, somewhere I would feel loved and respected. That's when we came up with a plan for me to move in with my paternal grandparents. They've always been kind and welcoming, and I know they would never treat me like a burden. They love me for who I am, and I feel comfortable and safe around them. Moving in with them felt like the best option to escape the toxicity at home and have a chance at a happier, more peaceful life. Meanwhile, Dad is willing to talk to his company about changing his work situation. He said he might try to apply for a permanent work from home position so he can be closer to me. If that doesn't work out, he even said he'd consider leaving the company altogether and coming back home so we can be together. Hearing that from him meant a lot. He apologized for putting me through all this hardship and made it clear that there's nothing and no one more important to him than me. His words made me feel seen and valued in a way I haven't felt in a long time. Knowing that my dad not only listens but is also actively trying to find real solutions to make things better for me gives me a lot of comfort and hope. It reassures me that I'm not alone in this and that no matter what, he's on my side and has my back. Update 3. Yesterday was my 16th birthday, a day I had been looking forward to for a long time, but also a day I knew would be different from most. Instead of celebrating with my friends, I decided to spend the day making a big change. I was moving out of my mom's house. My dad had already talked to his parents about everything, and they were ready to help me. Early in the day, my grandparents showed up at my mom's place to help me pack my things and move out. Their presence was a surprise to my mom. She didn't expect them at all. I could tell she was nervous and uneasy around my grandma. My grandma has a strong personality, and ever since the way my mom betrayed the family, she's been very wary of her. The tension in the room was thick, but I felt safe and supported with my grandparents there. I looked Mom in the eyes and told her everything I had been holding in. I told her I knew exactly how she and her husband talked about me behind my back, that I had overheard every word, the comments about how I was a burden, how they just needed to adjust until I was gone, and how she only kept me around because of the child support money. Her eyes widened in shock. It was obvious she hadn't realized I had heard their entire conversation. I continued to tell her calmly but firmly that I had no desire to stay in her house any longer, that I wasn't going to let her use me for money anymore. while treating me like I was unwanted. I let her know that I deserved better and that I was finally choosing to be somewhere I was actually loved. My mom tried to argue and said, "I'm still your parent. It's my responsibility to take care of you now that your father's not here. You don't get to just make this decision on your own without even talking to me." But by then, her words didn't carry the same weight they once did. She was trying to fall back on the title of parent, as if that alone erased everything she had said and done. And that's when my grandma stepped in. She looked my mom straight in the eye and said in a firm, unwavering voice, "You already ruined my son's life when you betrayed him by sleeping with his own brother. And now you think you're going to ruin my granddaughter's life too, just to keep collecting money from her dad? I always thought you were a disappointment, but now you've proven yourself to be nothing but a gold digger." My mom stood there speechless while my grandma continued, not raising her voice but speaking with conviction. "If you try to stop her from coming with us, we won't hesitate to call Child Protective Services. We'll go to court and we'll tell them exactly how you've been misusing the child support payments, spending them on yourself instead of your daughter. Trust me, they'll listen." For the first time in a long while, someone was standing up to my mom on my behalf. Not just for show, but seriously. With force and consequences behind their words, it felt like a line had been drawn. My mom realized then and there that she couldn't guilt, manipulate, or intimidate her way out of this. She knew as well as I did that my grandma was right. My grandparents were ready to protect me, and this time she had no say in the matter. This is when my stepfather tried to jump in, like he always does when he thinks he needs to defend my mom or assert so-called authority. He stepped forward with that familiar smug expression, trying to sound tough. "Hold on, this is our house and she doesn't get to just leave without permission. She's being disrespectful, and if anyone's mistreating anyone, it's her towards us." But before he could even finish, my grandpa cut in calm, but sharp like a blade. "You don't get to speak for her. You're not her father. You never have been and you never will be. In fact, you're lucky we haven't already reported the way you've been trying to control her money. Speak to her like she's beneath you and play man of the house with someone else's child." My stepfather looked taken aback. He glanced at my mom like he expected her to step in again, but she didn't. She was already crumbling under the weight of it all, and now he knew they couldn't force me to stay. I calmly packed all my bags. My grandparents helped me carry everything out. And as we were walking towards the door, my mom suddenly broke down crying. She tried to stop me, apologizing through tears, saying she didn't mean what I heard, that I misunderstood, that she was just venting. But I didn't say a single word. Since then, she sent me multiple messages, some apologizing, but most of them shifting the blame. She says she's sorry I overheard their conversation, but never once apologized for actually saying those things. What hurts more is she doesn't seem to understand why I left. Instead of acknowledging how deeply I was hurt, she keeps saying I blindsided her by moving out, that I should have talked to her first, that it's unfair that because of me she'll no longer receive child support payments. She's been trying to guilt trip me by saying things like, "Unlike your dad, I don't have a lot of money," and "I really needed that child support to manage my monthly expenses." The truth is, I didn't blindside her. She just never thought I'd have the courage to walk away. She never imagined I would choose my own mental and emotional well-being over staying somewhere I wasn't respected or wanted. But I did. Anyway, my dad has followed through on what he said. He has spoken to his company, explained the situation, and thankfully they agreed to let him switch to a permanent work-from-home arrangement. His salary will be a bit lower because of the change, but he told me he doesn't care about the money. What matters to him is being here with me, being present, being a real parent. This means the world to me. After everything I've been through, After all the confusion and betrayal, it feels like I can finally breathe again. I may have lost the image of the mother I used to believe in, but I still have one parent who truly sees me, who listens, supports, and is willing to choose me every single time. I think I'm going to be fine. Stay tuned for more stories from our girl relationships.